So this is the 2030 GMT edition of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet. We did not broadcast on the 12th or the 13th at least. So this is the first in 2 days, and we shall include comments on the disarray in the depraved cabal occupying part of the or parts of the number 10 Downing Street, not number 10 parts, but number 11 has been replaced by Jeremy Hunt after krazy kwarteng was ousted by Liz Truss during the day. Now, today's Daily Telegraph, which is the Boris Graph, used to be the Boris Graph, had the front page lead reporting that Kwarteng had said he was not going anywhere. By that, he must have meant, at the moment he was caught saying it, that he was not going to be moved from the post and he was not going to resign. Of course, within a short time of that, he was sacked. Now, what is going on in the cabal would defy the description of the nasty party on the one hand that Theresa May gave it about 20 years ago, just under 20 years ago, and the evidence that baby angel Geronimo has been witnessing. Baby angel Geronimo has been absolutely astonished to see the complete nonsense and rubbish, illogicality, cruelty, criminality, depravity, lack of compassion shown by each and every one of the occupants in the post over the 4 years that the criminals maintained the corrupt plot and conspiracy to defame and to demonize and to defame and demonize and to defame and demonize the baby angel Geronimo. The baby angel Geronimo's evidence encompasses all the evidence, and that is why baby angel Geronimo edition is the name of these editions, because everything else that is contained in the detail in each of the editions, each of the bulletins, is generally covered in the principle, in the ethics and the morality of baby angel Geronimo's evidence, witness. So I'm going off this camera for just under a minute. Now, the baby angel Geronimo is the universal, innocent witness, neutral, objective, spiritual, ethical, and moral. Baby angel Geronimo is waiting as he witnesses the misdeeds and depravity of successive depraved ones, so-called governments of the United Kingdom. He waits totally, entirely entitled to expect due behavior, kind behavior, compassionate behavior, tolerance, respect, and recognition and truth. And it doesn't get any of that. For example, on Friday, that is today's date, Friday the 14th of October, 2022, Liz Truss held a press conference. That was not long after she sacked krazy nephew Tom, Nephew Tom is a version of Uncle Tom because we kind of chronologically age him, call him Nephew Tom, just as we do Terrible P-Lips. Nephew Tom Kwarteng was sacked, and she thought, crazily, she's as crazy as he is, that she would hold a stunt and declare something. Now, it was only 8 minutes long before the press conference was cut short. She abruptly terminated the press conference when she was asked, was she going to resign? Now, imagine, had she not considered that question? And if she had considered, and if she had brains, and if she had competence in her brains, she would not have called that press conference at all, because it has done more damage to the reputation that she probably claims she has than would be the case if she hadn't called the press conference. So that shows the length of these people's incompetence. Johnson was supported by Keir Starmer when Johnson declared that he wanted the DEFRA campaign against baby angel Geronimo to continue. And Keir Starmer supported that. Now, there is obviously every incident involving Liz Truss kind of coming apart brings nearer the possibility that Keir Starmer might get in the post at number 10 Downing Street. Well, whenever that is a different matter, but that is the likely trend. So what happens? One of the commentators has said on Twitter during the day that Labour will be the same. That was a comment posted on Twitter as part of the Twitter kind of comments that appeared after Yvette Cooper apparently lambasted Suella Cruella Braverman. And I'm going to take a break from this camera. And Suella Braverman was described as wishing that the furniture in the House of Commons would swallow her up rather than her having to withstand the excruciating experience that Yvette Cooper was subjecting her to. That was the general trend. And yet there was a comment from another Twitter person saying the Labour would be the same. That is essentially true. Because in all these years, so since David Cameron became installed as leader of the Conservative Party a few years before the 2010, May 2010 election, there have been so many kind of items of evidence, real evidence, that could have been used by a competent democratic opposition to completely destroy any claim to credibility made by the nasty party. And it hasn't been done. Now, this is now 12 years plus since Cameron was installed with the help of Sikh Clegg in the Lib Dem Condom coalition. Now, Sikh Clegg has now sold his soul to Mark Zuckerberg in California as Zuckerberg's main tout in the UK and beyond. And when Zuckerberg was formally processed before the USA Senate, what did he suffer? He didn't suffer anything. Because all the senators, congressmen, whatever, despite the kind of appearances failed, failed to actually quiz him on the real lies, serial lies that Zuckerberg perpetrates as the head of the corporate entity. And Sikh Clegg is doing his worst to suppress any democratic question that may arise as to the purpose and the modus operandi and the agenda of the Facebook main platform. There is no sign of any critical investigation by the likes of the, let's say, the Guardian, because the Guardian is supposed to be currently the only kind of independent thinking outlet in Fleet Street. Well, at least that is what it says itself. But the Guardian doesn't investigate Facebook, Google, and any of their tributaries. So there is no real accountability by the corporations, by the City of London, and most certainly not by the crooked conservatives who are in brazen breach of all the obligations, treaty obligations, that the United Kingdom formally remains member of signatory to. And whatever Liz Truss has been doing will not save her career. No question about that. That is a certainty. But when she goes, and when somebody else comes in, and then they go, the lot of the people, the majority of the ordinary people in the United Kingdom, will not improve. And there is no certainty, there is no sign that any movement remotely exists that will take shape and take place to stop the crooks of the Labour Party from imitating the crooks of the Conservative Party. The so called Communist Party of Great Britain, which remains religiously loyal to the adventures of Vladimir Putin, is completely dead. And Labour Party has no members of parliament, despite Yvette Cooper's display on Friday, 14th of October 2022. There is no single member of the Labour Party who is intellectually competent, ethically fit, and morally suitable to replace the corrupt cabal currently at the number 10 Downing Street, serial corrupt cabals. So Baby Angel Geronimo is witnessing all of that, and we are voicing that witness evidence. And we update Baby Angel Geronimo's witnessing every day, every edition, in this way and in further details as and when relevant. Baby Angel Geronimo is a magic, is a blessing, is a divine blessing, Baby Angel Geronimo. Only a divine blessing could withstand the cruelty and the lies and the defamation hurled at the most innocent Baby Angel Geronimo for years by every aspect of the UK corrupt, evil state, dark state. Now, back to Tower Hamlets in London's East End. In the last day or so, there has been further kind of revelation about Shamima Begum and her two friends being trafficked by spies belonging to Canada to Syria. The significant additional bit is that the United Kingdom spies, MI6 and MI5, were involved in covering up that fact. Now, we didn't know this particular set of facts until this particular journalist published the book. And this publication has been reported in the mainstream papers. We didn't know these particular facts. So, what we did know, and I'm coming to that in a minute. What we did know was that the local Tower Hamlets Council failed wantonly, brazenly, blindly, stupidly failed to address, deliver, perform its safeguarding children duties. There were three girls. Let's put aside the first one, who traveled separately. These three girls all were teenage girls from a school in Bethnal Green. Now, they were groomed, they were targeted, and they were brainwashed over a period of time. Whatever the actual length of time has not yet been established, but we can say that it was enough length of time over which these children were being brainwashed, groomed, and kind of made fit to be trafficked. How did this happen? The school regime at the time, at the Bethnal Green School, which was previously the Dainford School in the 1990s, when I attempted to defend the school's single sex status, which I'll come to again for an update. That school's administration didn't have a clue. At least they didn't show to any of the parents of these children any information. They didn't share any information. They didn't share any concern, and they didn't protect these girls. So, what on earth is the local Tower Hamlets Council supposed to have been doing about safeguarding children? It has a clear duty, legal duty. Tower Hamlets Council, at all relevant times during these girls being brainwashed, as far as is accessibly established, was being fronted by the executive mayor, Lutfur Rahman. Now, Lutfur Rahman is often touted as a Bangladeshi born or Bangladeshi origin. Well, he is Bangladeshi born and also Muslim executive mayor at the expense of Tower Hamlets. At the expense of Tower Hamlets is our phrase. They say of or for or in. So, Lutfur Rahman was in post from October. This is October. So, October 2010 until the day this news broke in February 2015 that these girls had appeared in Turkey. That's where the first publicly accessible photographs, video footage appeared. So that's October 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 5 years. So what did Lutfur Rahman do as the executive mayor? As we know, Lutfur Rahman has stayed absolutely silent on why the Tower Hamlets Council failed in safeguarding the children duties. Lutfur Rahman has not been quizzed by any of the councillors that we know in Tower Hamlets, at the expense of Tower Hamlets, to explain his silence. And Luthraman has not been quizzed as to why he failed by any community campaign. Apart from our campaign, we are not asking him because we are commentating and we are publishing the facts. We are not directly asking Luthraman, not yet. We shall be doing in due course, but not at this time. So, in Tower Hamlets, among the people who organized his kind of election, or the two elections that he was supposedly declared to have won, October 2010 and May 2014, those who organized Luthuraman's election in Tower Hamlets have stayed silent. Luthuraman has stayed silent, and his colluders, as well as his opponents, as later revealed, so called petitioners, all of them have kept quiet, including the overhyped, conservative, racist Peter Golds, including the so called hope of the Labour Party as the mayor candidate, Abbas Uddin Elias Halal, and his supporters. None of the Labour Party members in Tower Hamlets has said one single word about Shamima Begum or her two friends that were trafficked. If they have said anything and we have missed any of their statements, we shall in due course update that gap in our commentary, if that is the case, that there is a gap. But as far as you know, there is no concern expressed by the people that are supposed to be in public positions, either as paid councillors or as paid legally like chief executive or executive mayor of the at the expense of Tower Hamlets Council. So what on earth are these people doing? Because there is a big legal scandal, a criminal scandal that has been unfolding. And there is no sign that Luthuraman or his so called opponent, John Biggs, has got anything to say about how these three girls were trafficked from Bethnal Green to Syria through Turkey. How can that happen? When the white girl, Millie Dowler, was reported to have her mobile phone hacked, mainly by the so called journalists belonging to Rupert Murdoch's News of the Screws. Millie Dowler had been murdered already, but the revelations that her telephone was being hacked and monitored by journalists of the News of the World. That created a UK wide scandal of such proportion that then Prime Minister David Cameron was engaged in a damage limitation exercise by appointing the Levison inquiry into newspaper conduct. And during the inquiry, Rupert Murdoch, who owned the News of the World, scrapped the News of the World. He completely banned the newspaper, News of the World. Now, if you compare what happened to these three girls, Millie Dowler was the victim of a series of telephone bugging and hacking. She was not involved, and her attackers were not involved, her kind of intruders were not involved in any known terrorist activities. And yet, that was the might of the popular pressure that a Levison inquiry was scrambled by Cameron. And as a result of the proceedings of the Levison inquiry, a lot of secrets came out about a relationship between newspapers and the UK government and the elections, and how the newspapers played significant parts in getting one party to be supported by the majority of voters, while the others were not given the same support. Among the closest confidants, closest personal friends of Murdoch's mistress, Rebecca Brooks, included Tony Blair and David Cameron himself. I mean, how did that happen? All this information came out during the Levison inquiry. Okay, not a lot of people were prosecuted, but a lot of information came out that would not otherwise have come out. Whereas in this case, 3 children were systematically groomed, brainwashed, and trafficked. These children were not white children. These are 3 Bangladeshi girls from Muslim backgrounds. And they were targeted. And they were targeted on purpose by the highest secret services in the West. And they were trafficked to Syria. I mean, even now, there is silence from Tower Hamlets, councillors, Lutfur Rahman, John Biggs, the 2 Muslim named women MPs, Afsana Begum and Rushnara Ali. What on earth are they in those posts for? What on earth are they in those posts for? Think about that. This is grotesque. So when Baby Angel Geronimo witnesses the lies by the central government department, aided and abetted by the holder of the post as Prime Minister at number 10, endorsing the lies of the depraved DEFRA, Baby Angel Geronimo includes in his evidence the behavior of all the liars and thieves and crooks in places like Tower Hamlets Council. In Pakistan, for example, daily evidence being delivered by Imran Khan directly calls the current Pakistan government chores and dakus. We say on this program, thieves and robbers. And in Siloti we say, Sur dakhait beiman or fuain. Beiman or beiman shur or bachain. এই 3 ফুড়ি তোমরার ফুড়ি হইলে তোমরা কিতা করলা না এই শুরুর বাচ্চাই বেঈমানের বেঈমান হল you are thieves and you are crooks and you are liars. So when Richard Morey was hearing the evidence against Lutfur Rahman in the petition, he came across a man called Maulana Shamsul Haq. Now, Shamsul Haq, to the local people in Tower Hamlets in Whitechapel area, had long been associated as the very white kind of gray beard, white colored bearded man, a tiny man, white bearded man, associated with the Ford Square Mosque. Now he was caught in the evidence about his having delivered one sermon or more than one sermon, telling the musallis, that is the people who prayer goers, Muslim prayer goers, words to the effect that they should vote for Lutfur Rahman because it was their duty, religious duty, spiritual duty. So when this was put to Maulana Shamsul Haq, Maulana is a title, honorific title, is a title that is supposed to be honorable, scholar. So he was asked, did you actually say that or those words? Astonished, Maulana Shamsul Haq said he didn't. So after a while, the side of the petitioners against Lutfur Rahman said, but there is video evidence that you did. And can you believe it? Maulana Shamsul Haq said, if it is on the video, then I must have said it. Now, at the time, there was no report about Maulana Shamsul Haq going through what is called therapy about memory loss or predisposition to dementia or Alzheimer's. And nobody raised that question as far as I can see. So Maulana Shamsul Haq said, if it is on the video, then I must have said it. Now, he was one of the most, quote, respected figureheads in the Muslim community, Bangladeshis in Tower Hamlets. So he was exposed as a liar in that brazen kind of confession. The other liar, there were many liars, but the other liar, of course, is Paula Monzila Uddin. I had a hand in promoting her in a photograph, a montage that I published in the Benth Bulletin, first edition, June 1983. Until then, Paula Monzila Uddin had no community standing. I created that, and she must have exploited it without my knowledge or my permission or my consent to introduce herself as a heavy thinking individual in Tower Hamlets. She is not. She is a thief. She stole money from the House of Lords by lying about the housing course. And those lies have been detailed in the newspapers, the Times and Independent and other papers. So it was Paula Monzila Uddin who was produced by Lutfur Rahman as a character witness to Lutfur Rahman. Now, what does it show about Lutfur Rahman's idiocy, unfitness? He produced Paula Monzila Uddin to give a character witness in support of him. And the petitioner side asked her, are you not the one who stole the money from the House of Lords? That's it. Paula was floored. So when somebody like a councillor, Kabir Ahmed, appears on the BBC Newsnight, the report fronted by David Grossman and dated the 19th of May 2022, and Kabir Ahmed asserts, completely wrongly, incorrectly, and in absolute pathetic poor grammar, that Lutfur Rahman's election on the 5th of May 2022 vindicated his critics. I mean, with endorser like Councillor Kabir Ahmed, Where does Lutfur Rahman live? He cannot find one single authentic, respectable, intelligent member of the Bangladeshi community in Tower Hamlets to make a complete sentence without being exposed as either morally compromised, challenged, or grammatically completely contradictory, and evidentially totally dishonest and disproved. We shall be continuing these commentaries in later parts. This is being brought to this one at 21:08 GMT.